Great. So you actually already kind of touched on this topic a little bit with the Dvorak Concerto, but I understand that you'll be joining officially this fall the Bowers program of the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center.
Yeah,
I understand from before the recording that you have been playing with them a little bit already this year,
yeah,
so that's wonderful. I also know that you play a lot of chamber music with your young concert artist colleagues,
yeah,
one of whom, Albert, was our first guest on this podcast. So,
yeah.
um, so shout out to Albert if you're listening. How has your work in chamber music helped in your own personal growth as a musician?
Oh, it's helped me a lot. I mean, it's also really helped me just basically as a person, I think,
Mm,
in many ways. Because as I said, I mean, I'm a very uh emotional person, and
mm,
I used to really get I would get like kind of I think I could kind of lose my temper easily, especially
mm,
when I was younger, and in a way that wasn't constructive. And playing chamber music and just basically playing with people and learning about people has just really helped me to gain more empathy, I feel like, and more understanding towards different kinds of viewpoints
mm,
and different ways of looking at the music. And yeah, I mean, I love playing chamber music. I do it a
mm,
lot, and it's really fun because one can sort of play around with it. And if it's a fun group, then like
yeah,
everyone is so on board with uh, experimenting, and if it's a fun group as well, it feels so comfortable and like home, very very easily um and quickly. And also if it's an extremely difficult, like say it's a contemporary piece that is like super challenging, and that
mm,
then you're not the only one suffering, like everyone
mm.
is actually. So there's a sort of communal type thing that can
Mm,
help empower each other in
mm,
the greatest instances of it. And it's always different. And I mean, music is always different,
mm,
and playing with different people is always different.
mm.
And this is just I feel like this gains me tremendous uh, insight and curiosity and fascination with how different people like playing with. I've played with Albert a lot, for
Yeah.
example, who just mentioned, and that's always so much fun because he's a true investigator and laboratory type pianist. One can really experiment with him. We did Schumann Adagio and Allegro recently, and
Oh.
I saw some things in the score that he hadn't noticed, which really inspired him, and
Mm,
he saw some harmonic things and some real dissonances.
mm,
In the music, which was so interesting. And like
mm.
I felt like we were just empowering each other
Yeah.
and creatively, helping each other flourish somehow.
Yeah.
And that's so much more fun than when you start like in COVID or something, when I started feeling so isolated and like,
Yeah.
okay, I can play these harmonies on my cello, but I haven't actually been playing with a pianist for like half a year by now. Like, uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So as I said, everything is chamber music, but when you're playing with people that you enjoy and that you like, which I feel lucky to do very, very often,
Mhm.
it's just incredibly enriching. And you can leave from there, and things someone said to you, I mean things somebody has said to me like 2 years ago will still pop
Mm.
up in my brain, and like, oh yeah, that was interesting, I should go into that more, and
Yeah.
like, so yeah, for me it's just been it's a great time, and I
Yeah.
love playing with people and learning about people, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think chamber music, obviously, like you mentioned, has a very human element to it, right? Interpersonal relationships on stage. But also, it's a true educational experience because let's say you have a trio or a quartet, and so you've studied with like two or three teachers, and then everyone else has studied with two or three teachers. So you're getting this like melting pot of different information and inspiration, and you're bringing that all together. And I think that is such a beautiful thing. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. And playing in trios and playing in a trio and playing in a quartet is so different as well. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so such different functions as a cellist as mostly in a trio it's a melodic element and often in a quartet you have a bass element and
Right.
the bottom kind of the universe if that makes sense. Um so it's very different functions, and this is
Yeah.
something that really interests me. This summer, when I'm going to La Jolla, I'm playing
Yeah.
Schubert Death and the Maiden and
Mm.
Janacek Kreutzer Quartet, his first quartet, which is
Mm.
so beautiful. I recommend everyone listening to check that piece out.
Yeah.
I mean, Janacek has an ability to sort of like I'll just get kind of tears in my eyes within 10
Yeah.
seconds of his music. There's
Yeah.
just there's something about it that I don't I can't quite grasp with human pain sensitivity and
Right.
yeah, it's very special. So
Yeah.
anyway, so that's really interesting for me because I'm not as experienced a quartet cellist as a
Mm.
trio or a
Yeah.
piano quartet or those kind of
Right.
things. And I'm
Mm.
really curious to venture upon that and
Mm.
get more into it because I think there's differences to it all, but at the same
Mm.
time one needs to stay oneself at the same time,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
this is again those type kind of don't want to call them conflicts, but like meeting points that you gotta
Yeah.
find a way to unite. And
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and quickly before we move on, I remember one semester at Indiana, I took a unaccompanied Bach class taught
Uh,
by the Baroque violinist Stanley Ritchie. And yeah, so it was basically a class of string players, and we brought in, our cello suites or the partitas or sonatas, and we would play for them. And I'll never forget the first class of that semester. He said, "There's no such thing as unaccompanied Bach." Because even if you're playing Bach solo music, he
yeah.
wrote it in such a way where you're playing all the harmonies. You're not one voice. You're three or four different voices just in one instrument. So I thought that was such a profound thing, and I think
It's incredible.
yeah, and I think I'm sure with other solo works you've worked played, you probably feel the same way. Nothing is just one voice. So
No, 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 it's so interesting and sort of schizophrenic. Because
yeah,
like how many characters can be written within three? Like I'm practicing the Poulenc Sonata right now, and
yeah, yeah,
I'm totally in love with that piece. But that's
yeah,
like six different facial expressions within 10 seconds or something like that.
yeah,
You
yeah,
never know where you have him.
yeah.
Bach is also so much fun in this with the bass and the melodies and how they intertwine and how they
Right.
are farther away from each other or come closer to
Yeah.
each other. And like, yeah, yeah. And playing
Yeah.
Bach for Mr. Lesser was also incredibly interesting because he had so much of this kind of creative insight into it with the
Yeah.
multiphonic kind of how many voicings there is in there and
Yeah.
like what you can find and what you can show once and what you can show another time. That's also
Right.
why so many Baroque musicians sometimes they repeat. If you're truly I've heard about these like really free Baroque musicians who only play Baroque, and they'll like repeat like the first half of a Bach suite sometimes three times, sometimes one time, sometimes
Mm.
five times,
Mm.
because there's so many different ways you can show the bass or the melody line, and it's kind of limitless, and
Mm.
I think what they're so fascinated by, and that's why they do it. That's
Yeah.
why they because it won't be the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember watching a video of Franz Helmerson teaching on YouTube, and you might have seen it, but something he said that really struck with me was how he shared that each string is its own voice.
All
And
right.
and that sounds so basic, but when you really think about it, that really like we're our own little chamber group within just our instrument, with the way
Yeah.
we can that can really help determine, our fingerings, like I said before. And yeah, it's there, endless.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
can. And that's
Yeah.
yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.